As I understood, I was already introduced. So thank you very much. The agenda for this presentation, or the topic for this presentation, is really how to use our collaboration and communication platform BIM 360 for infrastructure. So with that, I will start with why you should think about BIM 360. So if you think about collaboration at this point of time, so usually current situation means that there are some information coming from investor, he's sending it over to participants, then they are creating answers, new version, and they start to communicate. And it seems at the beginning as a relatively standard communication. However, in the time, the communication can become a little bit, I would say, even chaotic, you know. So the more data are coming, the more information is flying around, and also people can introduce different means of communication, which obviously can cause the issue with, you know, missing some information, missing some data. I mean, not really missing, but missing email that arrived to you, and then you are really in trouble later on. So what we are proposing is really to collaborate in platform, basically to have all information stored in one, I'm used to say, source of truth, common data environment, which is in our case cloud, and also communication. So basically the communication on the project can be, you know, really done in the drawings. Then the drawings can be sent around again via email. Somebody can keep track what has been sent, who and when it was once answered, again in some Excel sheet. However, this is not again the best, because then it can cause the missing some data, missing some important communication. So what we are proposing is really to have not only data in cloud, but also that all stakeholders will communicate throughout the cloud. So basically, it's not only about the data in cloud, but also about the communication in cloud. And you could hear it in previous sessions, you know, being able to work on issues and answering it, and really to have really some overview about the project. So with that, I will go and what is BIM 360, but obviously in context of infrastructure. BIM 360 is not only some platform where you can share the data. I mean, in this case, you could use Dropbox or something like this. However, what we have in Autodesk is a platform which consists of important functionality which is related to the design. And here I listed some of the functionality which is available in BIM 360. However, at this point, I am not going to talk about each and every functionality, because what I want to explain you is that, in fact, what you can see here on the left-hand side, this is some workflow, some tasks which you have on your side, which you have to do, for example, documentation management, document management, coordination, on the construction side, quality control, and so on and so forth. And on the right-hand side, this is the functionality which is available in BIM 360. And again, not all functionality. And what is important to understand is that the workflows which are on your side can be, in fact, addressed by some really workflow, you know, so diagram which can show how the data will flow, who will do what, and what will happen if somebody will answer. And you can see right now, for example, I selected coordination, and then you can pick from our solution the functionality which will help you to satisfy this workflow. So what you can think about BIM 360, about some Lego boxes, you know. So basically, you have set of tools which you can pick, put together, and use for your project, for your task, as you wish. And, you know, here I selected some example workflow which I will be using to really show you how BIM 360 can help you. And you have different personas. You have surveyor, road designer, pipe designer, BIM coordinator, BIM manager, you know, so basically different personas which will be coming into this workflow. And also I will be showing how you can communicate with site. So with that, what I will do, I will go immediately to the first task, how to create and share existing terrain, digital terrain model. And this will be on the surveyor side, which will I will show you what you can do. So let's have a look how we can use BIM 360 to satisfy this part of the workflow. We have what we call civil 3D collaboration on BIM 360. So basically what you can do, you can really work with live data you can use of civil 3D in BIM 360. And you can share not only files, but also objects. So what can happen is that the surveyor can start his drawing, DWG file, opening his template. Then he will create, based on his survey data, existing terrain. Then he can save entire drawing, entire DWG file on cloud. But immediately what he can do, he can share his object for other people. So this can be the first part. So let's have a look how it can work, what a surveyor can do. So basically, surveyor will open his drawing based on his template. He will share the data in cloud, and then he can start to work with data shortcut. Data shortcut is standard functionality of Civil 3D, which is available for many years. However, recently, basically in fall of last year, we added functionality to share the data shortcut via cloud. So, and you could see that you can open data shortcut project in cloud, and then it enables other people to use these data shortcuts. And also, what you can do is you can bring to your drawing external references, because this is something which is very important in infrastructure workflow. So you can bring external files from within the cloud to your drawing, which in fact will mean consistency of data. So basically, then if everything is stored in cloud, even including external references, then everything will be accessible through cloud, and everything will be, let's say, viewable by other people in the same manner. So now what you can see is some piece of existing terrain and some external references. And now I can associate entire drawing with the project. So with this infra project which has been created at the beginning. And now I will define in which folder, because you can create your own folder structure in BIM 360, where to store this drawing, entire drawing. So it's done, but in fact what I'm showing at this point is that as you are saving something into the cloud system, or better said, what we did is that we created some services which are running at the background. These services on your computer are called desktop connector. And then everything will be synchronized with cloud automatically. And now, as a user, because as a surveyor, I stored my DWG file in cloud. This is aware of data shortcuts in cloud. And at the end, I can share my data, basically my terrain model, as an object in cloud. So everything has been shared via cloud. And then road designer is coming onto the stage. And what he will do, he will create his model. But before this model is shared with other stakeholders, basically in my case, this pipe designer example, he has to submit it for approval. So let's have a look how this workflow can look like. So as a road designer, again, I'm using Civil 3D. I am using data shortcuts, and then it means that I can utilize what Surveyor created for me. So what I will do is I will create my new DWG file based on my template, because of course I can have very different template than Surveyor. Then I will reference to my drawing the terrain model which has been created by Surveyor. So basically via shortcuts I will reference it into my drawing. Then I will create my design, and I will save my drawing into the cloud, and then I will share as an object my corridor and other Civil 3D objects which I have just created. And just what I want to show you is that we can use what we call approval process, which is predefined workflow, which me as a user, I will be able to pick and use. And then again, this is something which is very important on BIM 360, because it will keep track of what is happening, but also it will notify the people who are included in the process. They will be notified automatically, so I don't have to generate any email notification or anything like that. So let's have a look how it can look like. So at this point, I am BIM manager. So for these purposes, I call it BIM manager as a name, you know, and I am logged into the system. And you can see that I have different, I can see different folders in my BIM 360. And of course, I can set up the permissions. And for example, to digital terrain models, Surveyor has full access. However, Road Designer has only view access, which is enough because he is not allowed to modify anything what Surveyor did. So now I am logging in as a Road Designer, as a different person. And immediately you can notice that I don't see the very same folder structure. It's a little bit less subfolders, and the reason is because I don't have access to everything. However, BIM Manager has. So now I can have a look what Surveyor did for me, and then I can start to utilize it. So I go to my Civil 3D. I created a new drawing called Road Design, and in fact, I created it based on my template. And now you can see that I cannot associate this drawing to the project. Why? Because first I have to set up a working folder. And this working folder is in fact sitting in cloud. So I have to go to BIM 360, to the project, which I call infrastructure project files. And then I can do what I need to do. And this is, in fact, a very similar workflow as you are doing with data shortcuts on your own network. So now, system is synchronizing data with cloud. He found infra project in cloud, and now I can open this data shortcut project. And you can see at the background, system is synchronizing the data, and system is synchronizing digital terrain model. And now I can see that there is existing ground surface, which I can use as a reference. So very similar way as you do now with data shortcuts on your either computer or on your network. So I have data, I have terrain model, and very quickly, so it's just quick fast forward, I did my design, yeah, because this is not the purpose of this webinar to show you how we can do the design. But you can see what I did. I did my job as a road designer. I created my terrain, sorry, not terrain, the corridor with retaining wall, this road, this tunnel, and so on and so forth. And now, because I saved this drawing already in cloud, I can start to share my object with others. So I can do this, that maybe my fellow road designer can start to do some junction and so on and so forth. So then, of course, the workflows can be very different, but the purpose of this is just to show you that we can, as usual, I would say, share data shortcuts, but now not in your network, but in cloud. And for the purpose of this webinar, I created workflow that, for example, now, because I want to share the data with Pipe Designer, and Pipe Design is outside of my office, I don't want to share my corridor model, so I will share with him only solids because I feel it's enough for him. So I created new drawing where I exported solids, and now I save it as again to BIM 360 to row design, and I will have 2 drawings there. So this was on the row designer side, and again you can see at the background system is automatically synchronizing the data with cloud. And now you can see that in BIM 360 it was automatically synchronized. I have version 1 and of my row design and row design construction both. And obviously I can view it and I can submit for review. So now, because this model will go out of my office, so I want to ask my BIM manager to approve it. So you can see that I am opening predefined workflow from BIM 360, which is one-step process. And you can see that even the BIM manager is predefined because this is part of the template. All people who should be here are notified here. However, I can add, of course, for example, I can notify other project members that they are aware that I'm doing something like this. So I submitted my drawing, and obviously it can be one drawing, it can be several drawings, it's up to me. I submitted it for approval to the BIM manager. And then BIM manager should either approve or not approve my document. So basically we are coming here, and if you're not improving, he will create issue and he will send me the drawing back. So it's just like this. And in fact, BIM manager doesn't have Civil 3D on his machine even installed. However, using BIM 360, he can view the data, he can compare the version. If there is several versions, he can compare it with BIM 360. He can check embedded data. Basically, he can check all properties which are attached to the objects. So he can view it in 2D, 3D, he can measure, and so on and so forth. So what happened? BIM manager received automatically email notification that row designer sent him a drawing of the set model for review. So, and he can start reviewing process. So, of course, he has to put his credentials to log in, but as soon as he does this, he is sent to a tab called Reviews, which you can see here, and he can start review process. So, starting review process, and he can see that there is one drawing only, and he can view it. And as I said, he doesn't need to have installed anything, so he has it in his web browser. He can see entire model, and he can see what I did. He can measure, he can slice it basically by sections, for example. He can get information, and so on and so forth. So, and then, of course, there is that can be a little bit more measurement, but at the end of the day, when he is happy, he can approve it. And what happened? On the approval, the data has been copied, and what we agreed in our company that all approved data will be stored in this subfolder, approved data for subcontractors. And after approval, because this was the part of the approval process, the document has been copied here. And the reason is that Pipe Designer has access only to this folder because it's external guy and we don't want that he has access to all the data. And now I will be talking about clash detection. So you heard about clash detection in previous session, but I will talk about this maybe a little bit different way, because if you are talking about clashes, you can do the clashes. And now you can select, in fact, different ways. And it's kind of like writing books. If you are writing book or some text on Word, you can make some autocorrect, some basically quick check. Or you can make proper check using spell check, or you can make proofreading. Basically, you can go throughout this and you can really make a proofreading. And this is something similar what we are offering with our solution, because with clash detection, we can do quick check using BIM 360 coordinate. and you saw it in previous session. However, we can do proper check using Navisworks Manage. And what we can do throughout check using Navisworks Manage and BIM 360 issues, which has been also, by the way, mentioned in the previous session. So let's have a look what we can do. This is example using BIM 360 coordinate. So we store the data in cloud, and then using BIM 360 coordinate, I can go and using a DWG file or Revit file or IFC files, what I can do, I can glue these models together. So system will load both models from Row Design and from Pipe Designer. And now what I can do is, as a BIM manager, I can go and do clash detection. And now you can see that there is one clash, and I can see what's happening, what is causing the clash. And now either I can say it's not issue or it is issue. And now if I say it is issue, of course it will create issue in my BIM 360. I can attach due date, or if it's not issue, so then the issue will not be anymore listed, but system again will keep track what's happening, and that me as a BIM coordinator, I went through all these clashes and I did my job. So this is a possibility what we can do in BIM 360 coordinate. However, as a BIM coordinator, I can use for proper check or the throughout check also Navisworks. And now I'm using Navisworks NWD file, which has been created and stored in cloud. And this is important. This model is stored in cloud. And I open it using desktop connector in my Navisworks. And I can go through, now I would say, standard clash detection in Navisworks. I can say, okay, the clearance is ½ meter, please run check. And the system will find all clashes. Now, system found 3 clashes, and obviously, I can unhide all others. This is standard Navisworks functionality. But what is important, because I'm using Navisworks in conjunction with BIM 360, I can go and I can directly from Navisworks create BIM 360 issue. And I will just hit create issue, and I would say standard way, I will click, okay, the issue is here. I will put some title, the type, if it's from design or maybe from something else, design pipe clashes on road and on road barrier. I will assign it to somebody. I will define close date. And again, assigning it to somebody means that I can assign it either to some person, or I can assign it to the role or to the company, because each and every user should have a role and it should be part of some company. And I can specify due date and I can create it. And of course, I can go through this. I can create another issue on another clash and so on and so forth. So this is just the standard way. I will just move forward. But as soon as the issues are created and assigned to somebody, so for example, Pipe Designer received the information that there is the clash. He sees Navisworks file and he can view the issue. And because he has access to this, of course, he can use Navisworks. He can create he can view it in his Navisworks, and he can do he can check the model in his for example, Civil 3D. Yeah, but here you can see that he is really capable of seeing all issues in the context of Navisworks, and he can work with this. So, and let's move forward. So let's have a look to remote access, what we are offering. Using remote access, we are offering to people to really bring model or drawing, it doesn't really matter, out on the construction site. What it can mean. So basically, because we are in cloud and we can use remote access. And on mobile device, and by the way, we are supporting iOS and Android. he can open the drawing or the model, whatever it is, really. And what we are also offering is offline access. Basically, if you go on the construction site and you know that there is not a very good internet connection, what you can do is you can download the files to your mobile device, and then you can open it. And as soon as you are back in office or there is a good connection, the system will synchronize it automatically with 360. And you can view stuff, you can create markups, issue, you can compare, and so on and so forth. So let's have a look how it can look like. So we have now the mobile device, iPad, and I am viewing, and at this point it's a drawing only, but for me it's enough. Of course, it can be, as I said, a 3D model. And from within the mobile device, I can create issue. And you know, what is beauty of this is that you can really use voice recording to not necessarily type data in, but really to record your voice, and using this really put all necessary title and description. Of course, you can modify it whatever you want. And because you are on the construction site, you can take a picture. So basically what you can do, you can make a picture of what's going wrong on the construction site, that something is wrong, and you can assign it, and you can again assign it to the people, to the role, or to the company, and design due date. Again, as you would do it from your desktop, from your web browser. And then project manager sitting in office, he can see the problem, let's say, or the issue. So what he can do is he can come here, he can visit and check what's going on, who created this, what are the attachments, and obviously he can view this image taken on a construction site, for example, and he can see entire activity. And in fact, what is possible here, you can add he can add another comment or include another people to the entire communication. It's really up to him. It's just between him and the guy in construction on the construction site, or it can be somebody else. And obviously, he can see also the issue in the context of model or drawing. So he knows this exactly and what's going on. So what I want to say is that this functionality allows you to make what I call ad hoc issue. Basically, somebody is going on the construction side, he is having all data with him in iPhone, iPad, or Android device, and he can make an ad hoc issue. However, we have also a possibility to create field inspection. So, and this is what I want to talk about right now. Let's imagine that you as a manager or a project manager, what you want to do is you want to send somebody outside and to make some inspection, you know, what's going on, and to collect the data. But the data which he should collect are clearly defined. And this is what we are enabling by checklist. So basically, the checklist is something which is predefined. It is template which is predefined by administrator within the 360. And then based on the permission, somebody, in our case, it can be project manager, can assign it to some person which is going on the construction field, and he can collect the information. Or here in this example, he will collect the information about some bridges. So let's have a look how it can work. So project manager will find this in the templates, and this is what I said, the templates can be created by a BIM manager. He will pick up the template, he will rename it, and he will assign it to the guy who will go on the construction site. Jerry will go on the construction site, and I will tell him, please finish this checklist by April 4. And you can really view what you are assigning to him. Obviously, he received email notification about checklist being assigned to him. He is going on the site, and now he can open this checklist and he can start to fill it in. So again, he will say in which counties he is, or in which city, what structure number we are talking about, because each structure has some unique ID, sorry. And then he can put some other information, and then he's starting to fill the information. And basically here is, he should put for example, what quality or how good is surface, how good is structure, and of course, because he's on the construction side, regarding surface, he can take a picture, and there is some pothole on the road, so he can mark up the drawing, and he can even show what is the size, because you have a scale, of course. So he's just giving the scale, what is the size of the hole. He's adding some notes, so that later on it's recognizable, maybe better way. Again, he can record his narration. He is putting how many joints is there, how many drainage system is there, and then he's answering some questions. And if it's passing, if everything is fine, then nothing happens. But if it fails, then system will automatically create issue. And you can imagine creating the issue, system is starting entire process behind. And of course, he found the issue, for example, this road barrier, and basically this road barrier, of course, should be fixed. So he's setting the due date, he's assigning it to somebody, he's saying what type of the problem it is. It's obviously a safety problem, and so on and so forth. And he can also utilize for some of these tasks from within the checklist the data which are already stored in cloud. And now he just opened some drawing of the girder, some section of the girder, and he is showing just a very simple way where the problems are. And of course, after finishing the checklist, he is submitting the checklist, and then project manager can see that Jerry finished his job. And obviously, he can go through this, and this is something which obviously he can see for each and every checklist. And maybe because he goes for some meeting, or he needs to submit it to some other people who doesn't have maybe access to BIM 360, whatever, so he can create even PDF file, and he can share it even this way. But obviously, he can invite people to BIM 360, and they can view it there. And let's look to another task which is there, what we call RFI, Request for Information. And this is something which is very often, appreciated by our customers, because of course you can create issue. However, issue, if you are creating, you can of course address it, but you have to know who to address. While request for information, and now just imagine the situation. Pipe designer is outside of my company, and he found some issue which he cannot solve, and he's asking for information, but not necessarily he knows me as a road designer or all people within the company. And the predefined workflow in this example is that the question from him will go first to the BIM manager, he will evaluate it, and then he will send it to respective people. So for example, in this case, he will send it to the road designer. And here is how it can look like. So as I said, it's predefined workflow, and you can imagine that here, subcontracted designer, in our case, the pipe designer will submit the question. And the question will always go through BIM manager. You can imagine BIM manager as a kind of hub for questions. And then he will evaluate the question, and he will evaluate, review the question. And if he doesn't understand or he doesn't agree, he can send it back to contractor. If everything is fine, the question is submit it to designer. And again, designer will answer the question, or he will put some instructions, he will put some attachment. And again, the BIM manager is the hub, and if he is satisfied with the answer after evaluating it, he will send the answer to the subcontractor. If he is not happy, he will send it back to designer, and maybe he would have to put more details. So what I want to stress here, predefined workflow, which is really clearly defining who should review it, and it can be one guy, it can be more people. It's you can select different predefined workflows. As a manager, you can specify who will be the hub, who can answer it, and stuff like this. So basically, it makes entire communication much easier. And at the end of the presentation, I was just talking about functionality, but what I would like to mention is the entire BIM 360 has some architecture. And the architecture is that all data are stored in project data, basically here. And you can connect to this project data through desktop connector using AEC collection. And we have also some layer, which is called Autodesk Force, which enables third parties, or of course reseller, like PROCAD, to add additional functionality, which will be tailored to your need. And now, I just want to name it. So basically, this project data are stored in BIM 360 docs. And in fact, today, most of the functionality, like approval process and so on and so forth, has been done via BIM 360 docs. BIM 360 is a tool or services which are enabling you to connect Civil 3D directly with BIM 360 on the level of objects. This is important to understand. On the level of objects, basically we are enabling to use data shortcuts in cloud. Then we have BIM 360 coordinate, basically the way how you can automatically find the clashes in cloud and communicate this via cloud. Then we have BIM 360 build, and from this module, I was showing you, for example, this field inspection, basically this workflow where you are creating checklist, assigning checklist to somebody, and then somebody is filling up the checklist. Or also this request for information is part of BIM 360 build. And then for handover and operation, it is BIM 360 docs. And of course, please understand, I definitely didn't cover everything what BIM 360 is capable of doing. Because obviously, in given time, I wasn't able to go through everything. However, I would encourage you to connect this PROCAD, and they will help you to understand and to answer more questions which you have later on after this presentation.